Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. I am super excited to have you guys all here. I am super happy, like more excited than I should probably be to be co-hosting this with my amazing sister. So welcome. While she gets settled in here. Hello, hello.
Hello. So it kicked me out so I could rejoin.
I love it. I love it. We're here now. We made it. We figured out technology. I love it. I'm so excited. I was just saying that I am like beyond excited, probably more than I should be, just to be able to play in the sandbox with you as grownups, right? Did we play in the sandbox as kids? Was there a sandbox?
No, there was a lot of dirt, but it was mostly in the mountains. There was a creek that ran, a literal creek, not like a river, but like a little sliver of a creek that we also played in.
That creek had tadpoles and frogs that I remember playing with.
And beautiful flying bugs, which may be the reason that you're so averse to them now.
I think that's probably true. So little side story is Stacy lives in Florida. I live in Nevada, and she's trying to get me to move to Florida now that I am this close to being an empty nester. And bugs. The hurricanes, like I get it. You have warnings, you have shelters, you have safety. Bugs. There's not enough bug spray to make me happy.
They're part of the ecosystem, and if you love on them, they will love on our earth.
I love it. I love it. So we're gonna dive in today, and we're gonna talk about a few things, but we're also gonna have fun. This is called the Culture Playground Masterclass series, and I have been doing several webinars over the last couple of years, and really wanted to kick this series off here in the holidays, and we've got a whole lineup set for the next 14 months of amazing guest speakers that I'm going to bring on. And so I welcome you all as you are here, whether you're watching the recording, whether you're watching the live stream on Facebook. We are live in our Facebook group in the Conscious Educator Circle. So feel free to chime in, the chat, the comments. This is interactive. It's all about us kind of playing and having these conscious, amazing conversations. We'll, like I said, we'll cover a different topic every month. It'll be the third Thursday of every month at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And if you register, you'll get a copy of the recording as well. So if there's anything you miss, or if there's anything that you want to share with a friend later, feel free to do so. We're going to do these for free. And again, bringing some amazing, valuable content to you, tools, strategies, things that you can actually put into place today to really amplify your own happiness, your own well-being, so that you can really live this game of life from a playful state, from a state of your own internal wellness and well-being, and really anchored in who you naturally are. So with that, I want to introduce formally my amazing sister, Dr. Stacy Herrera. And Stacy, if you want to share just a couple high points about how amazing you are, because otherwise I'll go on forever and you'll probably keep it more succinct than I will.
I am a licensed school psychologist in the state of Florida. I own Herrera Psychology and Telements. So on the private practice side, we provide evaluations and individual and group therapy for kids. On the Telements side, we're contracting with schools and youth-focused nonprofits to increase mental health services across the board, because we know that educators know that there is a tsunami of need going on with regards to our youth. So just really excited to, again, partner with my sister to support educators, because we both have had some amazing educators in our own lives and growing up, and now, of course, as professionals, and just looking forward to supporting you all.
I love it, love it, love it. So Stacy and I actually, the work that we've done, we were able to come together with a school in Florida about, was that 4 years ago, 5 years ago? 20 years ago, something like that.
Pandemic time.
Pre-pandemic time. And then pandemic makes the years seem like decades. So we were able to professionally collaborate at this school. Stacy had been working with them with their social emotional curriculum for the kiddos. and brought me in to kind of supplement the work that she was doing, because I've been working in organizational culture for over a decade, and started in the corporate world working with the team at Zappos with Tony Hsieh and his other company, Delivering Happiness, and really spreading happiness around to other corporations around the world. And then got invited into a couple of schools to share what we were teaching companies, and realized that educators are the most fabulous humans on the planet. And I never want to hang out with anyone else, right? I just want to hang out with educators all day. So I have spent the last decade being a student of the world of education and learning the nuances of details of the difference of what culture transformation is like in schools versus organizations, and seeing all of the similarities as well. So a lot of the content that we'll go through is rooted in human behavior. So if you're listening and you're not currently working in a school, it's still relevant for you. If you're a parent, if you're a student, if you're a teacher, if you are in education or just passionate about education, we're going to be speaking to you throughout this masterclass series. And today I really wanted to kick off. There's so much in the world that is anchored in this nervous system overload, is the best way that I can kind of describe it in a nutshell of what's happening to us as humans. And we also have this system, right, of education that has been around for generations, and it's not working. Are there pockets that are working? Absolutely. Are there things that are amazing and innovative, and classrooms that are really working, and even schools, whether they're charter schools or public schools, where they've got a leader and they've kind of unlocked some things, but they've unlocked it in a way where they're breaking the rules, quote unquote, of the current system of education. And this pandemic has brought to light so much across the systems that don't serve us for where we're growing as a human race on this planet. And one of the blessings in disguise that's happening right now is we are in the education revolution. It's not something out there, like we're in the middle of it. And I know that you all are feeling it. We're all feeling it, whether you're a parent, whether you're a student, whether you're an educator, no matter what your role is. If you have a connection to the system of education, raise your hand right now if you can feel that you are in the middle of the revolution, right? Like, some days it's like a hurricane and you're not in the eye where it's all quiet and peaceful. You are definitely in the swirling wind. And the current system, the best way I can describe it from every educator that I'm able to connect with around the world, is that the current system is saying, let me tie your hands behind your back. Let me put a vice grip around your head and tell you to juggle 8 balls in the air. Go. It's like, what part of that is humanly possible? And what part of that allows you to lead and teach from your position of strength? So a lot of what Stacey and I are going to chat about is understanding this chronic stress, right? And I'm going to invite Stacey to kind of break it down into the neuroscience and the brain science behind really what's happening to us. But I first kind of want to talk about, Stace, what are you hearing as you're working in schools, as you're working with parents, as you're working with students? What are some themes and some stories that you're hearing about the impact of what we're growing through right now?
I think that the level of stress is insurmountable for all stakeholders, as you mentioned, within our educational system. But what I'd like to share is a meeting that I had this last week to kind of highlight how it's going. So this school has been very responsive to a private client that I was working with who needed a higher level of care and support as she navigated school and the emotional response that she's having to the stressors in her life. And as I sat in that meeting, it was the first in-person meeting I've attended in over 2 years. Vibrationally, energetically, you could feel the weight on these teachers. And they tried very hard at first to keep it all about the business. This is where the student is at. this is what I'm needing from the student in order for the student to demonstrate standards or demonstrate that they're mastering content. And you could see that they were very, very professional. They pulled themselves together, early morning meeting, and I'm going to be professional. And as I was able to describe what the student was experiencing and the level of treatment that she was going to be referred for, you could see the teachers' weight and the tears filling in their eyes, and the recognition that this is just one of so many students that they're holding space for at this time, and that they themselves are experiencing so much increased stress with the demands that you so brilliantly mentioned in that analogy of being in a vice grip and the hands behind their backs. And for one teacher to look at the parents in the room and myself and to say, well, I'm just going to put 100% in the grade book so that she'll stop looking at the grade book and maybe she'll learn something. And to have an assistant principal in the meeting who was like, yes, you can do that. I give you permission to do that. Felt like such a shift, because meetings in the past have almost tied teachers up to these standards and to these expectations to where they couldn't have flexibility in how they're responding to their students or how they're responding to their own lives. And to see that there is this ever so slight shift occurring due to the fact that the emotional weight on everyone in that room, students, parents, teachers, administrators, school counselors, you could see it in their eyes. And I believe that everyone was just thankful to again meet, energetically feel that we were all in this together, and to recognize that the grades are things that we can discuss later, but the mental health of all individuals is paramount at this time.
Love that you shared that story. And like, I'm choked up even thinking about it, right? Because the weight that we as humans are facing, let alone as educators, you are trying to, and a lot of times doing a really good job holding it all together for your students. You've been doing that since the moment you decided to become an educator. You have been holding it together because you are so passionate about delivering your best to your students to inspire and ignite their inner genius. And you do it tirelessly every day. And so to be now in this space where it's crushing right now, and you're not alone. We are in this together, and there are so many of us that are fighting the good fight and busting through the walls to ensure that we actually take the handcuffs off, right? Allow you to lead from your position of strength. Because without that, you're not able to serve your own needs, let alone your students' needs. So I want to talk a little bit about the educator piece of that, because that's why educators exist, right? If you weren't employed in the current school that you are employed in, you would go find children to help somehow, some way. You would stop on the side of the road and see a child that needed help, and you would teach them something. It's just who you are. This is the brilliant humans you are. And yet in this system that is focused on, and in Nevada, in Southern Nevada, where I live, we are the 5th largest school district in the nation. And everything that is said, promoted, number one for kids first, all of these things, all good things. Please don't stop keeping children safe. That's not what I'm saying. My core mission is that if we don't actually put educators first, then educators can't do what they're best at to put kids first. So as we look at the system, as we look at our cultures, as we look at the organizational health of where we're showing up, how we're showing up, the structure of it, and do that in a way where educators feel empowered to take their own handcuffs off and go, you know what? I know what's best. I'm doing this because it's right. It's right to put 100% in the grade book for that child. That's what's best for that child. But yet that goes against every standardized mandate, test, rule, everything that the current system would tell you is correct. And I've been using air quotes way too often this week, and I really need to stop. So don't start counting them. Although we could turn it into a drinking game, but do not do that during school hours. Just side note. What I really want to dive into, Stacey, and I was just mentioning this, is the adult impact. And you're talking to parents, right? In Herrera Psychology through your private practice. You're also talking to educators in school buildings as you're navigating through the support systems to surround and support these children. What are you hearing most often from the adults about themselves? Or what are they not saying, but you can kind of glean from what is coming up?
It's just the burnout is just so evident. And it's often due to the cognitive load that everyone has been carrying. We've been put in these positions to shift and pivot and create new, and everyone just wants to get back to some sense of consistency. We call it normal, right? Everyone says, I want to get back to what it was normal, but it's consistency in one's life that the brain craves. And because of the new mandates and the teachers in particular, right? So here in the state of Florida, now everyone that has to have a reading endorsement. Oh, but guess what? We're leaving out the dyslexic students. So you have to have specialized training to service those dyslexic students. Oh, and then on top of that, you have to be youth mental health first aid trained. You have to make sure that you're interweaving social emotional learning into into the core curriculum that is happening. You as the teacher have to have so many tools in your toolbox to navigate your everyday, and yet you're only one human. In previous webinars, in order to celebrate and support teachers, we've talked about putting their own oxygen mask on first. And right now, it's just challenging for them to take a pause and do that. There are too many things flying at them to where trying to navigate finding that self-care and or that oxygen mask is just on the back burner, not something I can manage right now. To compare educators to healthcare workers, I am on the board of a nonprofit that actually reached out and was providing free mental health support for healthcare workers due to the fact that in the last 6 months, they've experienced significant burnout. Only 2 healthcare workers reached out in a total of 2 months. Why? They didn't have time to put themselves first. So even when we as a community are saying, here are the supports, here's what you can do to care for yourself, we're here for you. It's not separating all of the demands that are placed on educators. It's not providing increased personnel so that people have the time and the space to really navigate all that is being placed upon them. That's what's missing. As a community, I believe we're wrapping around educators and other first responders, and I include educators in that. And yet, there aren't enough individuals to meet the increased need of one-on-one support to navigate current education, because we know students cannot access the curriculum unless their mental well-being is addressed first.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned some words that I want to unpack a little bit. Side note, we're writing a book together that has to do with packing. It's a travel book of sorts, but that'll be coming out next year. Stay tuned. But I want to unpack the words normal and behind together, because those 2 words are coming up often in conversations about who is behind and that's set in all different sorts of contexts. And also normal, like back to or get to normal. So share your thoughts on those two words and if they're connected for you as well.
I think it goes to the expectations or standards that we all have in our minds of what is truly acceptable in our current existence. So everyone refers to normal as this kind of ideal that's in their mind of how life should be happening. I often have teenagers who come into the therapy room and will say, I just want to be normal. And so I ask them, well, what does that look like? Is it a particular person that you're viewing that they look normal? Or is it a particular feeling that you're after? And I really believe that when individuals during this time are saying, I just want to get back to normal, is that they're craving this sense of clarity and relief that is not associated with the increased demands that have occurred throughout the past 2 years. I genuinely believe that if we were able to say, okay, well, what does normal feel like for you? That we would get to those core desired feelings and a better understanding of what we would need to do to move towards those. Yeah. I think the behind piece has a lot to do in our educational system and the standards that were placed on us in the 1950s with regards to keeping up with other nations and how we compare to other nations and how we were behind in the space race and all of those things. So then we come to this place of, oh, now there's lost instruction. So of course, students are going to be behind the standards that we established pre-2020. And yet, we're all experiencing some level of disruption to a typical level of progress or growth that we could have relied upon pre-2020. And so again, getting curious around what is it that we want students to walk away with, and how are we assessing those gaps in knowledge to establish, okay, so this student missed this learning how to do fractions, for example, because those were the few months where COVID was running rampant through their family. And so they were dealing with quarantines and people being sick and possibly someone in and out of the hospital and possibly someone passing away. Like so many things that could have disrupted the opportunity for that student to access that content. As we move out of this phase of increased demand and into a phase of adaptation, we want to look at how are we assessing what students have missed and to be responding to that instead of just saying, well, they're all behind, and because they're all behind, I as a teacher am failing.
That's such the piece, right? Is that the weight of responsibility that teachers carry to see their students progress in their learning journey, and to have the added pressure from someone telling them how it should be done, and we can talk about the word should, it's a shame that, right? Creates this extra level, this extra overload on our nervous systems that does not allow our creative thinking brains to actually emerge as humans, right? Adults and children. The more we are packed on, the less we have that innovative, creative, because we're living in a fear-based environment that the big saber-toothed tiger is going to come and get us. And it serves us in lots of different, situations to have that. And yet it doesn't serve us when we've actually put on these responsibilities on ourselves in a way that doesn't serve us or the students. And I say this in a way where there is a combination of things that put these quote, I was going to do air quotes again, I'm not doing that, these responsibilities on us, right? That really unintentionally diminish the brilliance that we bring to the table. No one is maliciously, I don't believe anyone is maliciously setting up rules, and there's not someone sitting at a table going, I am going to screw teachers over by doing this. I just choose to believe that, is that an unintended consequence at the end of the table, 12 steps down the road, that they weren't actually thinking of? Probably. And yet, was it intentional? Was it malicious? I like to think not, because we are all doing the best we can exactly where we're at. And so to your point about being behind or ahead, what is that measured upon? And what does that ultimately do to the psyche of the student and the teacher, right? To the student, it ends up making them feel like they're a bad person or that they're superior, right? And all of those are attached to ego, which, as we know, ego could get in the way. And as a teacher, it becomes this responsibility in a way where you're good, bad, right, or wrong for what you do or don't do on a daily basis. And so if we can release that and get to the solutions that you were talking about, the consistency, right? How do we create consistency? Because the other things that we're both hearing is everything's out of control. It's too much all at once. Nothing is certain. I just like, I can't, right? Everything's out of my control and everything's uncertain. Yes. And that's always true. That's always true, that everything is uncertain and everything is out of your control, except who you show up as. And so can you speak a little bit to the consistency and how that connects to giving yourself a sense of certainty and control and really kind of taking your power back? Can you speak to that a little bit?
I think if we go back during the lockdown period in particular, there was a lot of conversation around decision fatigue. Mm-hmm. And so we were having to make small, minute decisions in order to keep us safe. And there was this lack of consistent way of responding that felt safe and or in alignment with who we are. And so now that there's been this consistent way-ish of keeping ourselves safe with regards to the pandemic, and a consistent way-ish of reintegrating with our family and friends and being able to resume the activities with which we had relied upon for self-care or that consistency in the past. It's just exactly those things, rebuilding those things in such a way that allow us to feel more settled, and recognizing that we may get 3 weeks into something thinking it's consistent, and because of everything that's happening, something may throw us, may shift us. But if we can sit quietly and remember what's important to us, consistently having a meal with family and friends, for example, consistently going out and dancing, consistently going out and walking in nature, consistently waking up and exercising, meditating, having an anchor in one's life allows us to move forward even in the uncertainty, because we know those things will be there. And if they're disrupted, we know that we've created a pattern in the past, and so we can create a pattern in the future.
Yeah.
Our brains love to create patterns. Patterns in order to understand the world around us, patterns in order to meet a level of expectation within us, and our brains love to put the least amount of effort into anything.
Right.
So if we have created a pattern, which the pandemic has encouraged, right? This pattern of fight or flight that comes up every time we think about having to go somewhere, for example, without a mask for some individuals. So that there's this pattern that has been created. If I'm maskless around others that aren't in my household, that there are thoughts associated with that particular increase in anxiety or fight or flight. If we practice and rehearse that, that becomes a pattern in our mind. Brains like least effort, so it's really hard to shift that without putting effort into it. As you mentioned, the saber-toothed tiger, so our caveman brains were developed to keep us safe. Things throughout the pandemic became uncertain and for some unsafe. And so we go into this natural state of fight or flight, freeze or fawn. And if we continue to go there, it becomes this well-worn path that then is challenging to navigate away from and requires a lot of intention and a lot of effort. So in the same way we were trying to keep ourselves safe from the saber-toothed tiger, we were also reserving our energy so that we could run from the saber-toothed tiger. So again, anytime our brains are like, oh, it's more effort, we'll stay with familiar, sometimes unhealthy patterns because our brain is like, well, we got to reserve just in case we have to flee. We have to conserve the amount of energy that we're using just in case I have to generate enough
Talk about the link. Yeah.
Yep.
Talk about the link between that and trauma, because there's a lot of conversation around PTSD and just traumatic stress, in the moment, and chronic stress and all. Can you speak to that a little bit around how they're linked? Because what I hear a lot of is like, this is trauma because it is that sustained level of nervous system overload where we're not giving our cells an opportunity to actually allow oxygen and blood flow to go through them, which are two really vital things to living, right? And so what is that connection? Can you describe that a little bit of the chronic that we're feeling?
I think it just leans back on that idea that if that is our pattern, that is our rhythm, and that is our flow, then our brains are saturated in cortisol. And so anytime you have that heightened level of cortisol, you're going to have those panic-like symptoms, right? The increase in blood pressure and increase in heart rate and increase in ability to catch our breath, maybe that isn't quite there. So we have this physiological reaction. And if our bodies are constantly in that state, as you said, there's not an ability to relax and get back to baseline. So then we've created this baseline that is saturated in cortisol and will take a period of time to unwind. So chronic stress is evident for a number of individuals who have lived through this pandemic. I'm certain that there have been significant traumatic experiences that may lead to a diagnosis of PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. All of those things require treatment. So we can discuss the nuances of a PTSD diagnosis versus a chronic stress diagnosis versus a socially anxious or extremely anxious individual. And yet, some of the treatments look the same. And yet, what we need to focus on is how are we going to respond to it? Where are those supports? Is it in our employee support systems? Is it within the healthcare system? Is it having to schedule something outside? Is it gathering a group of people like we are today to really say, yeah, I see myself in everything they're saying? And then having these interactive conversations that almost become this support group of being able to manage the situation.
I love that. It's so, I was with a group of my girlfriends that I've been friends with since, a couple of them since I was 5 years old. There's 6 of us that get together almost annually. It's been 3 years. Hello, pandemic, kept us from each other. And yet getting back together this time and sitting around as we kind of did our closing time together, having brunch on Sunday was, I invited us to have a conversation, just sharing our favorite thing about each other and kind of going around in our circle and doing so. And those of you that are familiar with my work, it's, a version of appreciation circle and really being able to celebrate the unique, amazing humans that we are and hear how much we value each other. And it's something you can do with your families around Thanksgiving. It's something you can do with your teams. It's something you can do as individuals. It's just to share either your favorite thing about that person or what you admire, what you appreciate. But to the community aspect, right? And that connectedness piece. At the end, one of my lifetime sisters said, this is like therapy. Who needs therapy? We've got this, we've got us, we're good. And it brings up that lightness, that ability to breathe, right? That ability to actually connect in with, oh, there I am, when we can feel that sense of community. And so I wanted to share this visual aid that I put together several years ago around the science of happiness. And the science of happiness, rooted in positive psychology, it's been around since the late 90s. And it's really that science of focusing on what we do want versus how to stop all of these other things. And so there's tons of research behind this. There's so many amazing thought leaders that I researched and brought all of their thoughts together in one infographic to make it super streamlined and easy to digest. So they all had different pillars, but they were all saying the same thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is messy. How do we synthesize this? So I'm going to share my screen so that you can see this. And I want to talk through, Stacey, if you can kind of navigate with me on this, is the actionable, real world today strategies. And then we're going to share with you, my team and I created a happy educator quiz. Should really be a happy human quiz. Because it's not necessarily for educators, but you can share it with anyone. And I love educators, so I labeled it that way. And we'll drop a link for that so that you can take this free assessment. It's 15 questions. It's super quick and easy. Just your own self-assessment on where are you in each of these 5 pillars when it comes to your happiness, i.e. well-being, right? Because there's a type of happiness that's like rock star happiness that is not really sustainable. And so I like to talk about it more around your well-being, your joy, your bliss. Like where is this anchor in I feel good. I resonate with where I'm at. And so when we think about the science of happiness and these 5 pillars, purpose and meaning, positivity, connectedness, engagement, sense of progress, each of these pillars has different components to it that give you the answers to I almost did air quotes again. I'm going to catch myself now. When you start doing something, you're like, I'm irritating myself. I hope I'm not irritating anyone else. Is to really think around where am I in these pillars and how can I self-assess and how can I have the keys to unlock my own happiness and my own well-being and take my power back to give myself that sense of certainty and control. So Stacey was already mentioning a few of the tools and things that are out there: meditation, exercise, being mindful while you're eating, having set family time, taking a walk in nature. All of these examples are the action steps that are behind the pillars of the science of happiness and that kind of lead us to calming our nervous systems down so that we can self-regulate and we can get back into resonance with what we're doing and find our own rhythm. And I'm going to use the word rhythm intentionally versus the word balance, because balance kind of invokes it's like a teeter-totter, or like it's really delicate and I might fall off. Whereas rhythm, like just find your rhythm, find what feels good to you. And that may look different than anyone else, and it may be different than, you know, each day of the week. And that's cool. If you're in rhythm, rock on, whatever that is for you, no judgment. So with these 5 pillars, Stace, and I want to here as you look at these and think about actionable strategies that whoever's watching, listening to this, can really take away, that unpack self-care. And I'm going to do that one intentionally in air quotes, because we're all tired of hearing the world, just self-care, just self-care, just self-care. And then as educators, you want to punch them in the face. It's like, don't punch people in the face. It's not nice. But to anchor into, this is what I can do. This is this is my one thing that I can do. And that's really the power as you take the Happy Educator quiz, to kind of know where you're at, your own self-assessment on these pillars. And you can take it as many times as you want. You'll get a updated report every time. To really then be able to dive in. So Stacey, if you want to pick whichever pillar resonates with you, to be able to anchor into what's a strategy that you've seen work really well.
I would really like for everyone to start with connectedness. I think it's beautifully positioned in this infographic, and it's in complete alignment with Maslow's hierarchy, right? We need to have this anchor of sustenance and safety that then allows us to move into other avenues. And so it is reaching out to groups such as this. It is reaching out to friends. We know that having connection staves off anxiety and depression and addiction. And so if we could start there by taking one moment to reach out to someone whom you haven't connected to recently.
Love it.
Or make a date with someone and figure out a time when you can hang out. We have been craving connectedness. If we think about during lockdown, the level of isolation, which is the opposite of connectedness, that was encouraging and or enhancing the anxiety and depressive and addictive symptoms of everyone on the planet, right? It was the connectedness that kept us grounded. I think as we move then through the positivity, it is important for us as humans to intentionally look for things that are going well, things that bring you joy, moments when you're experiencing bliss, because our minds have a tendency to veer towards things that are unsafe or negative, or things that are undone, or things that we need to fix. Why is that? Again, going back to that caveman brain theory, in that we have to keep ourselves safe and fed and all of the things. So we're just looking for you to take it up a notch and intentionally look for those joyous moments. You can use a gratitude journal to do this. You can, there's an app to allow you to do 1 second a day. And if your 1 second is just kind of sharing something that brings you joy, by all means, do it. Purpose and meaning. As we're finding, people are quitting their jobs quite regularly. And what's happening is there was enough time during this pandemic for a number of individuals to say, wait, what's important to me? Why am I here? How am I giving back during my time on this planet? And really making choices, intentional choices around employment that lead towards this purpose and meaning. If you are in a position where you find that your job is fulfilling for you, and or you can find purpose and meaning in other things by volunteering, being on a board that serves the community, or in some way giving back. Those are really excellent ways to encourage that. Engagement. Now, this one may require a little scheduling, but it's important for us when we are feeling overwhelmed to really take the time to sit down and say, okay, is this even possible? Can we fit this in? Can we hold this all together, or do we need help? And so for engage, I would encourage everyone to take a moment when you do need help, when you do need assistance, when you do need someone to hold space for you, that you are actively asking engagement that I would love to see. Sense of progress. So Sandy mentioned this happiness survey. As you're incorporating new things in your life, it would be great for you to have a baseline of where you're at with regards to a little happiness survey. And then in a 6-week, 9-week period of time, we're all educators here. We know about interventions and the baseline data, and we want to progress monitor. So I'm going to ask you to progress monitor your level of happiness and take the survey every 6 to 9 to 12 weeks and see if you are making gains. Because if we are monitoring something, then we are actively engaging with changing our behavior, and we're able to see progress. And when we see progress, it just serves that loop to re-engaging with this new way of thinking or being or doing. So I encourage you all to incorporate some of these activities. For you, incorporate self-care. If it's just reaching out to others, please reach out and connect to others.
I love all of those examples, and I totally put you on the spot and didn't give you any prep time for this, so thank you for that. You're amazing. I figured I would talk and set it up long enough for you to review, and I love putting you on the spot and just allowing you to shine. It's beautiful. So our brains are so in
therapy, everyday therapy, where somebody comes in and you're thinking you're going to do something. You're like, you got your notes from last session, and you're like, okay, so we're just talking about this, and they come in and they're like, this, all of this went awry this week, and it's just having to like, okay, let me gather
here we go
data and let me see where we can lean on the strengths that we've established last session and keep moving forward. So
I love it.
I appreciate the opportunity.
I love it. And so one other thing I wanted to mention here in purpose and meaning, be mindful to celebrate where you're at with it. Be mindful that purpose and meaning can be as simple as being connected to a clear vision of where you are going in your life and your role in making that happen. It can be as simple as knowing your role within your family, with your significant other that you're connected with, and your role in making that vision come to life. Sometimes when you are in the world of education and you are so connected to, I am an educator because I see my role in making a difference for children everywhere, and specifically the children that I get to inspire and influence on a daily basis. The key to unlocking purpose and meaning into the space where it actually ignites your inner genius versus like, oh yeah, I already got that one, I already got that one, is to really be connected to that clear vision and knowing your role in it, whether that's in your family, with yourself, with your organization, really kind of a key component to that one, so that you don't break out the shame bat and get to a space where you're like, not enough, not enough, not enough. I'm not solving, the world's problems on a global scale. That's okay. Do you, right? You igniting the inner genius in yourself or in someone else and living in your space of flow and rhythm, loving your life, that energetic vibration of those that you get to be connected to, you're enough right where you're at without doing anything. And so I want to make sure that my team, if you are watching and listening in the background, if you can drop the link to the Happy Educator quiz, I will do so here in the webinar space, but if we can get my team to drop it onto the, in Facebook, there we go, those words. Free quiz, take it as often as you like. You'll get an email with a report. It'll give you your scores in there. The report itself doesn't change, but the scores change every time you take it, if they change, right? It's an opportunity for you to really just have some examples, have some resources that are not just rooted in self-care, that are rooted in science, that are rooted in, this is an anchoring of who you naturally are in order to get your well-being to where you want it to be. No one else's judgment, and you get to look at it across these 5 pillars and then pick one action, just one. And it can be as simple as, I am committed to taking a 5-minute walk outside every day. It can be that simple, to just breathe. Or it can be, I promise to make sure that I take 1 deep breath every hour. And if you have an Apple Watch, it reminds you, right? So just oxygen and blood flow, and making sure that you're finding that resonance in your day to allow yourself to unlock the handcuffs, right? To feel the vice grip release from around your head. You're in control of that. All of the other things you can navigate from your position of strength once you realize you have the keys to do so. It's not easy, and yet it's possible.
It's not. And personally, I want to say, I have a tendency to just push through. If I just keep pushing through instead of taking that 5-minute break, because I know I can get it done. I've done it before, I can keep doing it again. But what's happening is I'm creating a pattern that's not sustainable. And I would prefer to take the 5-minute break to really recenter myself, find that moment of clarity, and then re-engage. We know how strong you all are as educators. I know you barely have a minute to pee, much less take a little break for yourself. Lean on your team members, lean on your fellow teachers, lean on those whom you trust to take those minutes and acknowledge that rest is essential for us as humans to operate. It is not something that we earn by pushing through everything.
Yeah, that's huge. We don't earn rest. We are worthy of rest and taking care of our basic needs. We just are. We were born that way. Take care of yourselves because you're worth it and you're enough exactly where you are. You are not enough because of the work you do. You are enough because you're human, and you're a unique, amazing human. And you get to thrive in this life from your position of strength. And my team and I are putting together several opportunities to provide you with lifelines. And we're going to do this in a way over this next year. We're going to have lots of free opportunities, lots of low-cost opportunities to join our playground, because we get to get back to playfulness. We get to get back to the core why we got into the world of education. We get to re-anchor in what brings us joy, what brings us bliss, what feels good to us, so that we can lead and inspire and create amazing relationships with students so that they can learn and grow. Because we know that that's the key, is they learn and grow once they feel safe, and you make them feel safe by creating trusting relationships. We know all of these things. And so my mission with Educator Dynamics is to provide you as many lifelines as I can in as many ways that I can. And so I've been working over the past several years to be putting all of this together. So in addition to the Happy Educator quiz that is free, again, take it as many times as you want, the link's there, that is open to you all the time, share it with your friends, whatever you would like. The other thing that we are doing for free is a 5-day Happy Educator challenge. And it is a fun challenge. It is an opportunity to play. And so for 5 days, I'm going to be live on Facebook. And so it's going to be super easy. It is starting November 29th, so the week after Thanksgiving, those of you that are here in the US. And it is an opportunity to really just take your power back. We are going to drop into these pillars of the science of happiness in a way where we're going to dive in a little bit in 30 minutes each day. I'm bringing on my next special guest, who is an amazing human as well. Lisa Chastain has been a mentor and soul sister of mine for several years, as well as for Stacy. And she is going to come on Wednesday and Thursday with me of that week. But you'll just get me for Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, but you'll get Lisa with me on Wednesday and Thursday. And we're going to stream live at 4 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday on the week of the 29th. I'm going to drop the link here so you can have all these details. You don't need to write them down. And so this 5-day Happy Educator Challenge, we're going to be giving away some grand prizes that give you more opportunities to earn continuing ed credits, to have fun in the playground, to really deepen your learning in your own journey of evolving your internal culture in a way where you take your power back and you own who you show up as on a daily basis. So I'm creating a whole series of micro schools that are going to be starting at the end of January, and they're going to be 3-week micro schools. And we're going to have 101, 201, and 301 throughout 2022. 101 is going to be all around your internal culture. 201 is going to be around your team culture, and 301 will be around your organization or school culture. So definitely join as you would like throughout the year. There will be a cost for those micro schools, but for the grand prize winners, and again, we'll be giving away 5, one for each of the pillars of the science of happiness, you will get free access to the first micro school, as well as in between there, if the micro school is too far away, we have 2 2-day playground adventures. And so we're going to have one playground adventure in December on the 11th and 12th. So they are on a weekend. And then we're going to have another playground adventure in January, the 15th and 16th. And so they will be Saturdays and Sundays. And I'm going to take your whole day. It's 90 minutes each day. So you'll get a total of 3 hours of continuing ed certification for this playground adventure. And all of it is rooted in the science of how we show up and own our best life so that we can inspire and influence that in our students. I'm hearing a lot about behavior challenges and kiddos haven't been in school and all of these different things. And so I am opening up to provide all of these tools and strategies for you. It's all happening virtually, and the graduations that we will be having for each micro school will be in person. So I'll be planning in-person little mini 1-day graduation retreats. I'm super excited about those, that I can be back to planning in-person little retreats and escapes for you. So that'll be included in the cost of each micro school. So all of this is coming. The information is going to be folding out to you. If you have specific questions about it and you want to just schedule a call with my team, definitely book a call with us. You can do that via any of these links, and we're happy to explain all of it to you in vivid detail. But just really grateful for all of you as educators showing up as the unique, amazing humans that you are, and being as committed as you are to all of this work. You're doing amazing. You are enough. You are incredible, and you're not alone. We are here to support you. Your friends, your families are all around to support you. And we've got this. We're going to make it through this education revolution, and we're going to turn the system of education into a system that serves not only our students, but us as the adults. And we're going to do it together. And so it's going to take this community. We are creating a movement of conscious educators. And so that's what this playground is about. My beautiful, amazing, incredible sister, I am so grateful to you for showing up and being my special guest on the Culture Playground Masterclass. And I look forward to seeing you for Thanksgiving. I'm excited we get to celebrate it together next week. And I will see you then. And everyone else, feel free to reach out. Let us know if you need anything. And please share one nugget forward. That is your play work from today. is for you to take one nugget that you learned and share it forward with someone else. All right. Love you all. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.